this September. Bad blood will be settled.
This is more than personal.
The long-awaited trilogy.
There's real bad blood here.
Canelo versus Triple G. September 17th, live on DAZN pay-per-view. Visit DAZN.com.
This is Matt for Into Boxing. Delighted to be joined by the one and only Frank Smith. And you look, Frank Smith. Nice specs, pal.
It's just the glasses. It completely changes it. It makes me look intelligent for once.
I think it's just added a completely new element to you as a person. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it has. I can see.
Yeah.
I couldn't see those logos over there. I wouldn't be able to tell you what they were without the glasses. So it's changed my life in just 3 days.
Didn't fancy the contact lenses or laser eye?
It's just a bit of a pain in the arse, isn't it? Although I'm finding it a bit weird because I don't know whether I should wear them all day. I don't know. No? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, it depends how much you can see without them, I suppose, doesn't it? I won't be crossing roads in them if you can't.
I could see you in front of me, but I can't really see right over there. So any opticians out there who are watching this, let me know.
Yeah, hit him up. He's the man. Huge fight week. Triple G, Canelo, the trilogy, the final chapter in this epic sort of trilogy, the series of fights that we've had. Controversial first two. A lot of people think Triple G won both. A lot think he definitely won one. How big a fight is it for him? Is this an all or nothing for Triple G in terms of his age, just coming into this fight? Is this sort of a last chance for him?
Look, it's a huge show. You know, people say the end or like the last hurrah, but he's still, you know, a world champion, 160 pounds. You know, he's still got a lot of big opportunities and fights there. So I think this is the fight that probably means the most for both of them right now, because ultimately there's been that ongoing, long-running, whether it's a feud, whether it's hate, dislike, whatever it is, there's something there. And we've been waiting for years. You know, I think, is it 4 years for this fight to happen? We've had COVID. I think there was plans to try and do it in that period there. But, you know, we're finally here. And it's building up nicely. And I think it's going to be a big night come Saturday.
Absolutely, it's definitely very personal for Canelo. The way he talks about Triple G, about ending his career, and for Triple G, it's almost like, look, this is business. I want a victory on my record over you because purely that. Does that benefit either or coming into it with the business or the personal mindset?
Depends. Some fighters need different elements to get in there and get them motivated. I think, you know, Canelo's got a lot to prove coming off the back of the Bivol fight, and then he wants to beat Gennady Golovkin in real fashion, and Gennady Golovkin wants to prove or right a wrong of years ago that he feels he should have won those two fights. So, you know, they've both got a lot riding on it, and I think they'll both use that, you know, that to sort of fuel them inside to get in there and give it all in this fight. But I think just naturally these two, you know, you're going to see a great fight on Saturday.
Do you believe, when you look at this fight now, that Canelo coming off the back of that loss, did we see Canelo slowing down, or was that just because of the weight jump, or it was an off night? Did we see a chink in his armour, or do you believe?
Look, I think there's, you know, look, ultimately everyone looks at losses in fights, but at the same time you've got to look at Dmitry Bivol and the performance he had in that fight.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like, so I think, you know, Dmitry Bivol had a great performance in that fight. Canelo didn't look like he's maybe looked in previous fights, but he's gone on a run of 23 world title fights, like, and you know that's one night. So, you know, I'm not sure. He doesn't strike me as the kind of person to make excuses, you know. And I think he just wants to go in there and he wants to go in there and beat Gennady Golovkin, and then he wants the rematch against Dmitry Bivol. But I think it's hard to say, did we see like a slowed down version of Canelo? Maybe we just saw a very good Dmitry Bivol and not 100% of Canelo that night.
Moving on from this fight, it's been a weird sort of 48, 72 hours. There's been news coming out about some of the biggest fights that are allegedly happening and some of the ones that are already penciled in. Let's come to Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. They put the terms out, 60-40. Eddie said, yep, we accept. 258 came out with a statement saying, we accept. Apparently we're waiting for a draft contract. Is there any further update on this? Have we received one? What's the story?
Not yet, but as soon as we get something, we'll be right on it. You know, we want to make the fight happen, so let's see. Until it's signed, it's not done, but, you know, I think we're all working in the direction of trying to make this fight happen.
How confident are you that this fight gets done? I'm not going to ask you to put a percentage on it, 'cause I think people do that to death, and it goes, I'm 90% sure, and then it doesn't happen, and everyone goes, you were very sure. So, talk to me about it. We've had these back and forths before with, obviously, Queensberry and Matchroom trying to make this fight happen. So, how confident are you that we see it?
Yeah, look, we've been down this road many occasions, and sometimes it just makes sense, and this is a time where it makes sense, I think, for both guys. How confident am I until it's signed? I'm never confident, because this business is up and down, changes every couple of hours, but I feel like everyone's got the intentions of trying to make it happen, and that's the most important piece.
Are you surprised? I suppose it's weird saying this, but after the Joshua fight, everyone was saying, look, he needs to be more active, he needs to be out there, maybe get him back in an O2 arena, get him a top 10 heavyweight, top 15, whatever, and just get him back into the swing of things, fight him more regularly, because he dedicated 11 months of his life just for that one fight with for the rematch with Usyk. Are you surprised at all the fact that he's said yes straight away to this, and also said, I'll take the lower end in terms of money and not a 50-50 split? Does that surprise you? Because everyone's talking about Joshua's the money man in the division, but Fury's obviously coming across as the A side now.
Look, I will get people laugh, but I still think commercially the fight could be 50-50. I still think AJ is a commercial bigger star, but ultimately it takes two guys to come together to make the biggest fight. I think AJ's got a lot more options than Tyson Fury has, in truth, in terms of right now fights that make sense. I think there's negatives and positives to going straight into this fight. I think there's negatives and positives to going back into smaller fights. So there's a lot of things weighing into all of them. He's got good opportunities whichever way he looks. Even if he wanted to have just a sort of traditional comeback fight in December, he'd still, commercially it would be good, and at the same time it would be good for his career progression and the stage he's at now. But at the same time, he wants the biggest fights, and the pressure's always on him. Whether it's a comeback fight or whether it's going straight back in there with Tyson Fury, he's got the same level of pressure, in my opinion. And actually, against Tyson Fury, a lot of people will write him off. Shouldn't do, and don't deserve, he doesn't deserve to be, but they will, because naturally that's the public, and Tyson Fury's obviously in the position he's in. He's number one heavyweight right now. So I think the pressure's more on Tyson Fury in that fight. And I think even win, lose, draw, whatever happens, AJ's still in the same position after that fight, but fully
after the Fury fight.
Yeah, I think so. You look at all the other fights look at Deontay Wilder, look at Dillian Whyte, look at these fights, still massive fights, and they're still the same fight. He goes in there and beats Tyson Fury. The rematch is massive, and he's one person. He takes this fight. People can't question, what his intentions are in the sport and his resume and who he's been in there with. And look, I truly believe he can go in there and do the business against Tyson Fury.
Now, when we talk about Joshua, his resume always comes up, and rightly so, because he's on a tremendous run, selling out stadiums, and he's always got that pressure on. No matter who he fights, could be fighting a bin man, the pressure's still there, no matter what. But is a loss to Tyson Fury, you say he could come back and have Dillian Whytes and all this, but he's had the pinnacle. There's not a bigger fight out there for him than Tyson Fury, in my opinion. Wilder would be great fun, but the Fury fight is the fight. So if he did lose to Tyson Fury, do you think he would carry on and still come back for these other fights?
Look, I bet, in boxing and life and everything, things change over time, but I still believe he's got the hunger and the fire in this sport to keep going. Hence why he's shown that, hence why he's gone through. He's made money. So if it was about money, he wouldn't have done time and time again. He wouldn't still be going. He loves the sport. He loves learning. He loves improving. He loves growing, and just like anyone in anything, like me in my job, I want to get better and better. So that's what he wants to do. I don't see him leaving this sport in the next 2-3 years. I think we got 4 or 5 years with Anthony Joshua. But he's focused. I think we have to focus on what the next steps are and then go from there. I still think those fights are commercially huge and also will drive him to get up for them. The likes of Dillian Whyte, the likes of Deontay Wilder, all of these fights, he needs, more than anything, I feel like he needs that to get up for. Like Dillian Whyte, they've got the history there. Deontay Wilder has been spoken about for so long.
Still history there because of the negotiations.
Yeah, so there's so much in all of these fights that allow him to keep going. We'll always be led by him, but that's my opinion. I think he continues for the next 4 or 5 years.
Talks about the fight itself. You always maintained with me, Anthony Joshua knocks Tyson Fury out, and I'm not expecting you to say anything different in terms of that you think he wins, but has your opinion or has your mind swayed at all looking at his last performances? It was a better performance against Usyk than in the first time, but are you still of that opinion that he knocks Tyson Fury out?
Yes, because like every
Is it a style make fights thing? Is it?
100% styles make fights, but at the same time, Anthony Joshua against Alexander Usyk, AJ went in there, lost by 2-3 rounds in the last one.
How did you score the fight?
I thought Alexander Usyk won. I thought it was a couple of rounds, towards the championship rounds is where he really went on with it. You know, from after round 9 onward, I think it was round 9 he caused a lot of problems with Usyk.
Yes.
Is it round 9?
I think it was.
Yeah, and then 10, 11, 12, Usyk did really well. But I think that Anthony Joshua can stop Tyson Fury, and I think he will stop Tyson Fury. And I think you look at the Usyk fight. Usyk undoubtedly has got to be pound for pound 1, 2, 3. What he's done at cruiserweight, and then come up to heavyweight and done. And he's had 400 odd fights, hasn't he, including amateur fights?
Amateur fights, yeah, he's a ridiculous record.
So him as a boxer, unparalleled in terms of in the sport.
Yeah.
And I think it's a completely different fight to the Tyson Fury fight.
Let's sort of move away from that now. Just let's touch on Usyk because you mentioned something there. If he was to go on and beat Tyson Fury, hindsight's a wonderful thing. That would surely then put him up there with some of the greatest fighters of all time for achievements. Do you agree with that? Because that's some feat if he went undisputed, especially the heavyweight division, because we see all these fighters, your Roy Jones, where they tempt fate a little bit, but it's not against the elite. He's coming here and doing it against the elite, and Anthony Joshua's, he wants the Fury fight. I mean, that would surely put him up there with some of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, undoubtedly,
Special.
Yeah, he's what he did at cruiserweight, amazing, and on the road as well.
Yeah,
and he never shied away from any. He's never shied away from any challenge. So look, but maybe you won't get the opportunity to fight Tyson Fury because AJ will knock him out twice.
You will laugh. Chris Eubank Jr, Conor Benn. We're seeing a lot of the fights off this and the other. I suppose this is once again pretty hard for you considering relationships. The fight's on though. Eddie said, look, the fight's on, there's nothing to worry about. But a lot of talk about rehydration clause and is this safe and is it not? But surely now we're sort of past that point, the contract's signed, are we not? There's room for sort of changing stuff now, surely. Yeah,
look, it's, the deal was done, everyone agreed to it, everyone was happy, and nothing changes on that front. It's
building the fight, isn't it?
No, a lot. I think maybe Chris Eubank Sr. believes what he's saying in terms of that's his opinion, right? Yeah. But the fight's with Chris Eubank Jr., who is training hard, will make the weight fine, I believe.
Eating a lot by the look of it as well, on the camera.
The IV donuts are very good in Brighton. I've eaten a lot of them myself, so I don't blame him. But look, I think people will say it's upselling the fight. That's Chris Eubank Sr.'s opinion. But Chris Eubank Sr. is not the contract, the deal, the fight is not with Chris Eubank Sr., it's Chris Eubank Jr. He posted earlier today, 24 days ago. He's training hard. I know he's training hard. I don't get involved. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed anywhere near anyone. So no one tells me anything. I just get told he's training very hard. So the fight goes ahead. Nothing to worry about. And Eubank Sr. doing what Eubank Sr. does.
Yeah, it's great fun. Talks about these face-offs and the sit-downs. They've been the numbers are through the roof. I've seen the numbers on them, and I'm sure it's still rising. What did you make of how they both bounced off each other in terms of Chris? I think this fight build-up has held court and held himself better than I've ever seen him in the other press conferences. I think when he was in there with George Groves, who is so blasé, does not care. It's almost like you're in a verbal war you're never going to win. But with Conor, he's playing the villain quite well, don't you think?
Yeah, look, I think he's a lot more mature now as well. He's 32 years old, I think, Chris now.
Yeah, he is.
So, what was the Groves fight, 4 or 5 years ago now? Something like that, maybe not that far. But, and I think they play off each other, him and Conor Benn. They're two opposites. Conor Benn is like that sort of ready to go.
Pitbull.
Yeah, and Chris is a bit more like, chill, it'll all be fine. And I think it works so well between the two of them. And I think that's why we're going to be in for a tasty fight week as well. Because the two of them, that press conference, like we saw with the first press conference, you don't always get that where people gel. And the two of them gel well because they're sort of opposite. And I do think Chris has changed a lot over the years. And I think Conor's that. Conor's just young. He's 25. He's lively. He wants to go. He wants to have it. He wants to have it there and then. Probably speak some Spanish to him in the next press conference.
You know what? I really hope so. I think the best sort of comment when he asked him about, do you think it's going to be a walk in the park, and he took his time and just went on a hot summer's day. I thought that is. I'm surprised Conor didn't jump across the table. Look, Franz Smith, thanks for talking to Into Boxing and give us some of your time again. We'll catch up later on in the week, and appreciate it, bud.
Good to see you, mate.